The girl was tied to a wooden post by the villagers. As a sacrifice, she was offered to the 1,000-year-old evil dragon in the sea. They hoped the girl would sink to the bottom of the sea in exchange for calm waters and peace year after year. But no one knew that she was actually a child blessed by the gods. That small village by the sea had, in recent years, been constantly plagued by the evil dragon lurking beneath the ocean. The dragon often appeared, stirring up storms and bringing disaster. After each catastrophe, although most of the villagers survived, their homes were already left in ruins. There had also once been quite a few brave warriors in the village who stood up to fight, but in the end, they were all dragged into the deep sea by the monster. With no other way out, the villagers could only think of seeking help from Camilla Temple. The high priest said that the villagers were not devout enough toward the sea god. Even though they clearly lived by the sea, they had not offered enough respect to the deity, and so they could not receive the god's protection. And that evil dragon named Leviathan dwelled in waters beyond the protection of the earth goddess. The villagers all knelt down and repented, but unfortunately, the one responsible for granting forgiveness was not a priest of the sea god, so their apology could not be conveyed directly to him. There was only one way, but it was not easy. That was to offer your sincerity to the sea god until his anger subsided, though this would not be easy. Before the sea god calmed his wrath, the only way to deal with Leviathan was to offer up a child under the age of 15 as a sacrifice. You needed to use the blood of someone with a pure soul to soothe his anger. So, very soon, the first sacrifice was decided, and people thought of the village chief's grandson. And precisely because he was the chief's grandson, the chief never intended to offer his own grandson to the sea god. The second sacrifice was the drunkard uncle's daughter. He drank heavily and shirked his debts year-round, and later, even his son became the third sacrifice. The village gradually returned to peace, but because of the monster in the sea, people still did not dare to go out on the water. Even though sacrifices kept being offered, the sea god still gave no response to the villagers. On this day, Rose's father got into an argument with a neighbor. When the girl, Rose, came outside and saw this, she immediately called out to her father. Her father hurriedly pulled her back into the house. Seeing the wound on her father's face, the girl was heartbroken. She wanted to bite her finger and use her own blood to heal her father's wound. With an angry shout, her father stopped Rose's dangerous action. The girl was very upset. Father used to let me give blood before, so why can't I do it now? Her father earnestly told her that if everyone discovered she had a special ability, they would suspect her, envy her, and exclude her. It turned out that while the girl was still in her mother's womb, she had already received a divine prophecy from the priest at Camilla Temple, saying she was a child with special powers. But the most important thing right now was to escape first. Her father, hiding it from everyone in the village, wanted to take her far away and flee. But before they could escape the village, they were caught by the villagers, and everyone accused her father of being a traitor. Her father believed there was nothing wrong with taking his child and fleeing for her life. If you love your child, this is exactly what you should do. The neighbor instantly flew into a rage. What? Only your family has a child. Do other families not have children too? He grabbed a brick nearby and smashed it viciously at her father. Her father had no time to dodge, and his tall body fell straight into a pool of blood. The girl knew that as long as she smeared her blood on her father's wound, he could come back to life. But when she thought of what her father had said, that once everyone discovered she had special abilities, she would be killed, the girl hesitated. In the end, she could only watch helplessly as her father's body was dragged away. Her father was buried hastily, and as for her father's death, she still could not escape the fate of being sacrificed. The girl cried out loudly, "I want to live, please, let me live." The young girl before them was not yet 15, yet she was about to be offered to the evil dragon. A year ago, she had only been a pitiful child who had lost both parents. But now, people said she was the daughter of a traitor. Having lost the protection of her loved ones, the girl could only helplessly become this year's sacrifice. It was said that a party of adventurers had come to the village, claiming they could slay the evil dragon. But the village chief feared angering the dragon and bringing even more terrible retaliation, so he drove them away. The last flicker of hope in the girl's heart was extinguished at that moment. In the end, Rose was still sent to the altar. Huge waves crashed against the rocks. Her pale blue dress almost blended into the blue sea and sky. The villagers sailed away in their small boats, gradually disappearing into the distance. The girl comforted herself in her heart. "I'm not afraid." A young girl in the prime of youth facing death alone. "I'm not afraid at all." But how could she possibly not be afraid? Trembling, the girl closed her eyes. Then, bitter tears began to slide down uncontrollably. Just then, in the salty sea breeze, a beautiful singing voice suddenly drifted over. The girl looked around, but could not see anyone. The next second, a fierce wind rose, and the dragon burst out of the sea. The monster opened its bloody maw, clearly about to swallow her in one bite. "I don't want to die." The girl let out tears of despair. That pleasant singing sounded again by her ear. "Someone is singing." She suddenly opened her eyes. A graceful young man was striding toward her. The evil dragon did not take him seriously at all. It opened its foul-smelling mouth toward the girl once again. The young man leaped up and landed directly on the dragon's head. The moment the sword pierced in, the dragon let out a shrill scream. It twisted its body wildly, trying to throw the boy into the sea. Before falling into the water, the young man threw out a flying knife and cut the rope binding the girl. The girl hurried behind a large rock, trembling all over. Later, when the dragon failed to find where the girl was hiding, it dove back into the sea. Only after the sea had finally calmed did the girl quietly peek out. She thought to herself, could that man still be in the sea? At that moment, a hand suddenly emerged from the water. The boy was completely unharmed and even smiled as he greeted her. "Hello there." The girl shakily stood up, wanting to pull him up. Unexpectedly, the moment the boy got ashore, the monster appeared again. It threw back its head and roared in fury. This time, it was determined to swallow both humans together. The boy remained calm and merely asked her how long it would be until dark. But the girl was already so frightened that she was completely at a loss, worried that if she relaxed her guard at a time like this, she would die here. With smiling eyes, the boy told her, "Don't worry, we won't die. I'll take you out of here." The next second, the evil dragon launched another attack. The girl was caught up into the air by its enormous claw and then violently flung into the sea. Very quickly, she had trouble breathing, and all strength left her body. Rose's body slowly sank downward. The boy swam toward her without regard for anything else. The two of them spun continuously inside the whirlpool. The dragon's sharp claw hooked onto the girl's ankle, and there was no way to break free. If this went on, even if she was not eaten, she would drown first. Seeing this, the boy unleashed astonishing strength and suddenly leaped out of the water. He delivered a fatal blow to the evil dragon. The dragon sank into the bottom of the sea, and the boy had nearly exhausted all his strength as well. But he suddenly realized that the girl was already close to giving out. So he gathered the last of his strength and swam to her side. When Rose was about to suffocate, he gave her air. When the girl regained consciousness, the two of them finally rose to the surface. The boy smiled especially brightly. "I told you, we won't die." Rose was very surprised. "Why did everyone else abandon me? We clearly don't even know each other. So why would you save me?" The boy replied, "Because you're very cute." He saved me not because I was special, nor because he wanted to use me. At that moment, the girl's emotional defenses completely collapsed. Did they end up together later? A helpless young girl with no one to rely on was offered to the evil dragon as a sacrifice. She had thought her life would come to an abrupt end at that very moment. Fortunately, a passing adventurer saved her. The girl was deeply grateful and thought the boy was an angel sent by the gods to save her. But the boy said he had only come to look for something, and killing the monster was just something he did along the way. To repay him for saving her life, the girl wanted to help the boy search as well, but the boy only treated her as an ordinary child. He did not take her very seriously at all. He turned and left, facing the sea, waiting for his companion's small boat to come ashore. By chance, the girl noticed that his hand was dripping blood. Although father said that if my healing ability were discovered, it would attract jealousy.
But he saved me.
Thinking this, the girl bit her finger without hesitation. She took the boy's hand, and at this moment, the boy's mind was full of questions. Where the blood had been smeared, the wound miraculously healed. It was the first time the boy had ever seen something so magical, and for a moment, he could not react. The girl thought he was angry, and her little heart immediately grew tense. After quite a while, the boy had already formed a plan in his mind. He praised her as a kind child and asked her what her name was. And he told the girl, "My name is Michelle." At this moment, Michelle's companions also came over. Later, they returned to the small village together. After they parted, faced with a table full of delicacies, Michel had no appetite at all. In his mind, the only thing that repeatedly surfaced was the image of Rose healing others with her blood. Meanwhile, weak and helpless Rose was curled up on her bed. She thought about what her father had said, that she must hide her ability well and protect herself. But if I had not been so timid and cowardly back then, maybe father would not have left me. She did not know whether what she had done today was right or wrong. In the pitch-black room, the girl was all alone, and she was truly afraid. The sudden knocking at the door made her pupils contract in fright. Even so, she still uneasily opened the door. When she saw that the person outside was Michelle, Rose was immediately both surprised and delighted. The girl's parents were both dead, and Michelle kindly reminded her not to open the door casually for strangers. Blushing, Rose softly said that Michelle was different. Then she changed the subject and asked Michelle whether he had found what he was looking for. "Fortunately, I already found it, and I will definitely make it serve its proper value." But reflected in his eyes was nothing but the innocent and lively Rose. Next, he brought up the healing ability the girl had displayed last time. The girl immediately grew wary, but was soon soothed again. Pretending to be kind, Michelle moved closer to her and gently placed both hands on her shoulders. He asked her who else knew about this matter. Then he leaned close to Rose's ear and praised her ability as very special. Rose, still naive and inexperienced, slowly let down her guard under his gentle advances. Father said that once this special ability is discovered, it could bring disaster, so I have always been hiding it. A sly smile brushed across the boy's lips. If someone by your side protected you, such a thing would not happen. Then, while idly playing with the girl's hair, he said, I saved you, and you healed me. Ours is a relationship of helping each other. Rose could not understand the deeper meaning in his words, and only felt truly happy that she could help the person who had saved her life. Michelle gently patted her little head and, with a teasing tone, said, You really are very cute. Before leaving, he even half-jokingly said that he wanted to stuff her into a sack and take her away. From then on, Michelle would come visit this neglected orphan girl from time to time, until one day, he was about to leave, and he also wanted to take Rose with him. After all, in times like these, it would be extremely difficult for a child to live alone. But this was, after all, the place where Rose had grown up, and occasionally the elders in the village would bring her some food. The girl fell into hesitation. Where exactly should she go? Using the supernatural power she was born with, the girl healed the one who had saved her life. But that man had other intentions toward her. Michelle was an adventurer, and after slaying the dragon, he became a hero known to every household. But he and his companions were about to leave this small village, and although he wanted to take Rose with him, the girl did not agree. He wanted to take Rose with him, but the girl did not agree. Even though the villagers were indifferent toward her, she still lacked the confidence to believe she could live well on her own. But when she thought about how she had neither agile fighting skills, nor knew how to use a bow, a long sword, or any weapon, I would definitely become Michelle's burden. I don't want that. Michelle did not force her either, and only told her to take good care of herself. Although the monster was already dead, the villagers still remained deeply uneasy. Before leaving, Michelle even went with the young men of the village to check for other hidden dangers, and they passed by Rose's house. Even though she had already made up her mind not to go with him, her heart was still tangled with hesitation. It was already dark, and Michelle still had not come. He used to come see me every day before. Rose could no longer suppress the longing surging in her heart. She wanted to go to the tavern Michelle often visited to find him. Even if she could only hide outside the window and secretly look at him once, that would be enough. At that moment, someone threw a stone at the back of her head. That person was actually the tavern owner's youngest son. She clutched her throbbing head, her face full of confusion. The boy said that the villagers had received an oracle, and at this moment, she also heard the conversation of the adults inside the tavern. The oracle said that the more beautifully a flower blooms, the more easily it attracts bees and butterflies. In the entire village, the only one named after a flower was her, Rose. Tomorrow, after the heroes leave and Michelle is gone too, what if she attracts another monster? Some villagers had even already begun to harbor murderous thoughts toward her. After all, she was only a girl with no father and no mother. She had clearly been offered out as a sacrifice, yet she had somehow returned alive. Just thinking about it made people's backs turn cold. They were even planning to kill her after the heroes had left. Terrified, the girl turned and ran. How could they decide that I brought misfortune to the village based on just a single oracle? They simply despised me for being the weakest one. And the girl ran for her life. At last, she knocked on Michelle's door. The one who opened it was the female adventurer Beiji. Rose's sudden visit caught Michelle somewhat by surprise. The girl ran over and threw her arms around him. The boy gently patted the sobbing girl and told her to sit down first. Rose cried so hard she could barely catch her breath, saying that the villagers wanted to kill her because of the oracle. Michelle patiently comforted her, saying that everyone interpreted oracles differently to begin with. So, the flower mentioned in the oracle might not necessarily be a rose. Of course, it also might not be referring to a name. He also told her to stay tonight and sleep with Beiji. Beiji really likes this cute girl. She pulled out a relatively new set of pajamas and tossed it to Rose. The little girl felt a bit embarrassed under the stare and could only stand there hesitating. Seeing her little face flush red with shyness, Beiji couldn't help but laugh and turned away. In fact, a long time ago, Beiji had already wanted to be friends with this little girl, but Michelle worried that her personality was too outgoing and might scare Rose, so he had never let the two have much contact. Beiji reminded the little girl that traveling with them meant meeting many new faces, so she needed to slowly get rid of her fear of strangers. Rose didn't catch the deeper meaning in her words, but I had already refused Michelle's proposal. I really wish he would ask me one more time. When she woke up the next morning, another adventurer told Rose that we were setting out today. The girl suddenly felt as if a piece of her heart was missing. She wanted to see Michelle one last time. She did not know that that big-tailed wolf was playing hard to get and had her completely in his grasp. Will Rose leave with the adventurers? This girl is too foolish. She actually hid herself in a wooden box and followed the bad guys away. At dawn, Rose had originally only wanted to see Michelle one last time, but that scheming boy deliberately put a wooden box onto the carriage. Then he told her a story. "I once had a cat. I found it in some village, and afraid it would starve to death, I gave it some food. From then on, no matter where I went, it would always follow me closely. When it was time for me to leave, I didn't see it. I thought it had already gone to find a new owner, but when I arrived at my destination and opened the box, only then did I discover that it had been secretly hiding in the box all along. Only at that moment did I understand that I should take that little fellow with me, because if I didn't take it away, it would die. It would be nice if things could be like that." Then he lifted the girl's hair and said pointedly that it would be nice if he could take Rose away too. The man pretended to be regretful, then walked straight past the girl. The girl clearly wanted to go with him, yet she never had the courage to say it out loud. At that moment, she saw the box in the carriage and thought of the cat Michelle had just mentioned. She pushed the box open with force and found that it was actually empty inside. She wanted to stay by Michelle's side, so a bold idea suddenly sprang into her mind. So she quietly hid inside the box and set off together with the carriage. Halfway down the road, Beiji suddenly remembered that when she woke up early this morning, the little girl named Rose was already gone. Sid was immediately seized by an ominous premonition and demanded to know whether Michelle had made some strange joke again. Michelle smiled brightly and said that if he wanted timid Rose to muster courage, he had to use a somewhat special method. Then he swung down from his horse and found that box. That weak and helpless girl was indeed hiding inside. Michelle said that from now on, he would be the one to raise this little kitten. Rose was so moved that her eyes grew hot. She hugged Michelle tightly, and from then on, there was one more person in the adventure party. Beiji always loved reaching out to pinch Rose's chubby cheeks. Sometimes, Fabitz would also join in out of jealousy. Only Sid was like a thorny cactus, his expression always cold. Although Beiji said not to mind him, that guy was just a black-bellied creep. But no matter what, Rose still wanted to become a little closer to Michelle's companions. On this day, they arrived at another village. After slaughtering the evil dragon, Michelle's fame had completely spread. No matter where he went, people worshipped him like a hero. This made little Rose feel even more inferior. She also wanted to stand in a place where she could be side by side with Michelle. At night, Michelle told everyone to rest for a while he himself went to inspect the village's terrain. Rose went out to look for him, but happened to run into Sid, who asked her irritably, "How much do you actually know about Michelle? Don't follow behind him like a lapdog when you don't know anything." Sid pressed further, "Then why do you think Michelle took you in?" Rose thought she had been dragging everyone down and lowered her head in shame. Sid reminded her that none of us are exactly people who do good deeds out of kindness. Don't mistake Beiji and Fabitz for good people just because they treat you well. In the end, he advised Rose to run away as soon as possible before Michelle tamed her, used her, and then cruelly cast her aside. Rose did not understand why Sid was saying behind Michelle's back that Michelle was a bad person. No matter what others said, in Rose's heart, Michelle was a good person. This silly girl simply could not take in a single word, so Sid could only turn and leave, leaving Rose alone under the street lamp, beginning to think about life. Why did he bring me along? Sid wasn't wrong either. There has never been kindness in this world for no reason. I also have to become someone who can be of help to them. This is the classic case of being sold and still helping count the money. Girls, you absolutely must not learn from her. A kiss won't get you pregnant, but it will make a girl just beginning to understand love completely devoted. Rose thought that Michelle had brought her along only because she was young and he pitied her, so in order not to be abandoned, she decided to become someone useful to the adventure team. After making up her mind, she went to find Michelle. Fabitz told her that Michelle had gone to the rooftop to pray to Mother. God may also be called Father or Mother, so he had gone to pray to God. Rose also climbed up into the attic. She carefully opened the skylight. What came into view was an entire brilliant and dazzling river of stars. The little girl was so stunned by the beauty of the night before her that she went blank. Michelle also noticed her arrival. Rose said she wanted to learn archery, or swordsmanship would be fine too. She wanted to learn to protect herself and not become Michelle's burden. But Michelle showed not the slightest bit of relief. Instead, his face darkened, and he spoke indifferently. "You don't need to learn those things. There is no need for you to touch something so dangerous. You don't need to do anything. If there is a need, I will decide your role." Rose thought Michelle simply had no time. She wanted to ask Beiji and Fabitz to teach her instead, and even promised that she absolutely would not cause trouble for everyone. Michelle lightly tapped the tip of her nose. He told her there was no need to rush to prove herself. "It is enough for us to protect you. You don't need to make any effort for that." But Rose did not want to be someone completely useless. Sid's words kept stabbing at her young heart again and again. She even began to long to be used by Michelle. Michelle comforted her, saying that right now she still needed to be protected, and that one day she would understand her own role and purpose. "Even after a very long time, your help still won't be needed, and I won't regret it, because you're very cute." The little girl blushed red from being teased. not knowing that Michelle's gentleness was actually a sweet poison. Just then, Fabitz called for them to come down and eat. Michelle answered, then walked straight toward the skylight. Fabitz couldn't help asking her whether coming down by herself wouldn't be dangerous. Sure enough, in the very next second, Rose's foot slipped. Those blue crystal shoes of hers had already fallen to the ground. At the critical moment, a large hand steadily caught hold of her. Michelle saved her yet again. To keep Rose from falling again, Michelle simply picked her up directly. Only after reaching a safe place did he set her down. Then, he let go of her hand again. Looking at Michelle's back, Rose couldn't help thinking that he was like the hero in a fairy tale book who saves the princess and finally becomes king. And I am not a princess, nor am I that pretty. Still, she couldn't help asking, if a princess said she wanted to marry you, would you agree? Michelle answered, if necessary, I would. Rose instantly felt downhearted and thought, if only I were a princess worthy of a hero. The next day, they were to set off again for their next destination. At the Temple of the Moon, a white-haired old man said, that place is very far away. So Michelle planned to take a shortcut and go straight through the Forest of Dreams. At that moment, the villagers suddenly stirred in commotion. Rose also began to have a bad feeling. The old man said that no one had ever returned alive from that forest, nor did anyone know what exactly was hidden inside. Even the king had publicly warned people never to enter that forest. Hearing this, Rose could not help but shiver. Michelle thanked the old man for his kindness, yet still insisted on continuing the journey. The old man added that no matter how strong they were, entering that forest would still be dangerous, especially with a child along. As he spoke, he looked at Rose with an incomparably mournful gaze. He suggested that Michelle leave Rose behind, and even promised to care for her like his own granddaughter. Rose felt as if struck by lightning. Michelle said he wanted to hear her own wishes first. If you stay here, you won't have to risk danger with us. Even if I don't want you, the villagers will still treat you well. Rose refused without a second thought and said firmly, I also want to go with Michelle, and I don't want to be separated from Beiji and Fabitz either. In front of everyone, Michelle asked her, even if the road ahead is full of hardships and dangers, you're still not afraid? Rose shook her head desperately, saying that she was not afraid. Hearing this, the corners of Michelle's lips lifted slightly, revealing a chilling smile. What dangers will they encounter next? Will he harm Rose? That little boy also wanted to go with the adventurers, but Michelle gently refused him on the grounds that he still had family. Michelle was gentle with everyone, and that only made Rose feel even more inferior. And so the group set foot on the road to the Temple of the Moon. Rose still could not help asking Michelle, if the person used as a sacrifice that day hadn't been me, would you have gone to save them too? And the old man also said that if there weren't a child following along, things would be much easier for you. So just now you were actually hoping I would stay in the village, right? Michelle gently wrapped Rose in his arms and comforted her in a low voice. The fact that you did not leave me actually made me breathe a sigh of relief. To me, you are a very important person. Hearing Michelle say he did not want to be separated from her, Rose instantly blossomed with joy. But in the very next second, Michelle's words poured icy water over her. If not me, then who else would keep taking you in? In that previous village, you were ruthlessly thrown to the monster, and in that village just now, no one could guarantee that you would not be abandoned again. Sure enough, at the mere thought of being abandoned, Rose's heart began to ache faintly, and your ability might also be taken advantage of by people with ulterior motives. The little girl was stunned by this string of words, and because of it, Michelle became the person she trusted most. He always said that helping the weak and those trapped in hardship was only natural. Look back. Without me, you would be unable to move forward a single step. Being weak is not your fault. The parts you lack, I can make up for. So you only need to be a good, obedient child, understand? Sid really could not bear to watch anymore, and said that Rose was practically like an obedient little dog. The few of them immediately glared angrily at one another, on the verge of starting a quarrel. Beiji said that now was not the time to argue. There was still a long way to go before reaching that lunatic goddess's temple. Rose instantly bristled when she heard this. This was a great disrespect to a deity, but Beiji did not care. Then should we call her the not-so-crazy goddess? Bickering and fooling around along the way. Before they knew it, evening had arrived. Michelle ordered them to make camp where they were and enter the Forest of Dreams tomorrow. A breeze blew past, yet Rose felt a piercing chill. According to rumor, this was a forest governed by the moon goddess, and anyone who entered had never returned alive. So no one knew what exactly was in that forest, and Rose always had an indescribable unease in her heart. Michelle raised a hand to cover her eyes and told her not to be deceived by dreams. At night, several of them sat together, talking and laughing merrily. Accompanied by Michelle's lullaby, Rose slowly fell asleep. In her dream, sinister winds blew all around, and she anxiously called out for Beiji, Fabitz, and Sid, but no one ever answered her. The girl could not help letting her thoughts run wild. We clearly agreed to meet again tomorrow. Could it be that because I'm too useless, I was left behind? The more she thought, the more frightened she became, and just when she had sunk to the depths of despair, her father's voice suddenly rang in her ears. "Rose, if you keep being this disobedient, Daddy will have no choice but to throw you away." Right after that, she heard Michelle singing again, and so she followed the song into the forest of dreams. Ahead of her, a woman guided her. "Be quiet, you noisy little thing. Hurry and quiet down, or the chaos sleeping beneath the earth will pass by our doorstep. Child, that is a vast abyss, even greater than the underworld, even darker. It will seize bad people and eat them. It curls beneath the earth, and sooner or later it will come out to hunt for food, seizing bad people and eating them. Just like a cat catching mice, it will even whip you until your skin splits and your flesh tears." Rose cried until her face was covered in tears, constantly repenting. Suddenly, that person turned around and looked exactly like Michelle. She was the moon goddess, and she told Rose that Michelle was a life form born within his mother's heart, nourished by blood. She urged Rose not to believe the person who shared her same appearance. "Leave him, run away." The mad goddess Diana conceived a child within her heart, and from birth, this child was destined to be extraordinary. Holding the dream of unifying the world, he set out on a journey with his companions. Tomorrow, Michelle's adventure team will officially enter the Forest of Dreams. That night, Rose saw the moon goddess Diana in her dream. Incredibly, this goddess actually had a face exactly like Michelle's. She cupped Rose's tender cheeks and told her, "Michelle was a life form born within his mother's heart, nourished by blood. Do not believe the person who has a face similar to mine." After saying that, she turned into specks of starlight and melted into the moonlight. When Rose woke up, she found that she was already lying on the other side of the brook, and the first person to find her was Michelle. The other companions also rushed over after hearing the commotion. Rose said that she had dreamed of the goddess Diana. She is the most mysterious goddess. She never reveals her appearance or voice to her followers. Fabbits instantly grew interested and pressed her on what the goddess looked like and whether she resembled someone among us. Rose glanced sideways at Michelle, not knowing whether she should tell the truth. But Michelle immediately gave himself away, saying that no matter how you looked at it, she definitely did not look like Michelle. Fabbits rolled his eyes. Did I ever say the goddess looked like Michelle? Everyone in the adventure party knew that Michelle resembled the moon goddess in appearance. Michelle explained carelessly, "Because I admire the goddess, I prayed to her to make me look like her." Rose was only half convinced. Michelle coldly warned her that no one liked disobedient children, so the girl had no choice but to obediently shut her mouth. A large hand landed on top of her head. Yes, this is the obedient Rose. Even though she felt very uncomfortable inside, the moment she heard Michelle praise her for being obedient, she felt inexplicably at ease again. The expedition team continued forward. Along the way, Michelle kept praising her, calling her Kitty Rose, the adorable Rose. The forest was so dark that no daylight could be seen, cold and damp, so oppressive that it was almost suffocating. Rose could always hear strange sounds, but at that time, Beiji said it was only the wind. It seemed the little cutie still had not fully woken up. Michelle did not like disobedient children, and Rose did not dare speak again. Suddenly, Beiji let out a scream. All the horses also lost control and bolted wildly. Michelle ordered everyone to dismount immediately. All the horses had fallen asleep. This forest was extremely troublesome. Sleep attacks always came when one was completely unprepared, leaving no chance to fight back. Everyone had no choice but to carry their heavy weapons and keep moving forward. "Michelle, among us, only you will be fine, so you absolutely must not let your guard down. Even I cannot completely guarantee my own safety." The adults' conversation caught Rose's attention. Why did everyone think Michelle would be fine? As they walked, a wooden bridge appeared ahead. Rose saw the reflection of the moon beneath her feet and could not help feeling puzzled. Michelle told her not to be surprised. In the domain of the moon goddess, there was no daytime to begin with. At this moment, Beiji yawned, and there was always a voice whispering in his ear. "Beiji, you are very sleepy, aren't you? You are already tired, aren't you? We will sing to you gently, like a mother." The next second, Beiji collapsed to the ground with a thud. Rose understood. It was that voice just now that had lulled Beiji to sleep. Ahead was endless darkness. The large trees beside them wore eerie expressions. Suppressing her fear, she grabbed Michelle and told him to look quickly. Michelle merely said indifferently, "I don't have time to take care of you right now. We need to get out of here as soon as possible." Fabbits carried Beiji and continued on. Before long, his eyelids also grew as heavy as lead. Then, just like Beiji, he fell asleep. According to legend, not a single person who entered the Forest of Dreams ever came out alive. Beiji and Fabbits collapsed one after another. Michelle ordered Sid to stay behind and look after their companions. Sid, however, felt that Michelle was discarding him after he had served his purpose. Because Rose alone was enough for him, the two began to argue, and the weak little Rose was immediately at a complete loss. She heard the voices of the elves. They launched a sleep attack on Sid. Then they said they wanted to show Rose something beautiful, something about Michelle. About Michelle. But the elves had no intention of sparing her. A hand reached toward Rose and covered her mouth and nose. A hand reached toward Rose and covered her mouth and nose. In the end, Rose was dragged away. She desperately called to Michelle for help, but not a single sound could come out. She could only watch helplessly as Michelle grew farther and farther away from her. The two handsome men were still arguing. Later, Sid finally could not hold on any longer and began swaying with waves of dizziness. Only after he fell did Michelle realize Rose was gone. He merely held his forehead and complained, "Honestly, I hate children." The elves brought Rose beneath a large tree and said that they would not hurt her. The blue elf said, "What we are going to show you is not a dream, but the truth." Then she took out a bottle of double happiness and forcefully poured it into Rose's mouth. Rose's consciousness gradually became blurred. She saw Michelle, a pitiful child abandoned by Diana and imprisoned by Ceres. The gods bestowed 3 hearts upon him. One could see the past and the future and perceive the truth. One could turn stone into gold, and the other was a heart through which flowed the most precious blood in the world. The rest became blurry and indistinct. Michelle's face turned toward her. Everything was terrifyingly real, absolutely not an illusion. Suddenly, Michelle walked toward her, then passed straight through her body. Without even looking back, he left directly. Rose pleaded bitterly, "Don't leave me here alone." Then she fell into darkness. When she woke again, she saw something she should never have seen. Michelle had actually killed an elf. Rose was so frightened that she stood there dumbfounded. Michelle held a blood-stained horn knife, his expression so calm it was almost indifferent. Rose covered her mouth and screamed, yet her body could not move at all. Michelle reached out his hand toward the trembling girl. Rose burst into tears, not daring to take his hand at all. Michelle smiled and said, "Rose, if you're not afraid of me, then come and take my hand. Other than me, you already have nothing left. If I leave you here, what will you do?" Then he turned and walked away, and Rose ultimately compromised, just as expected. She remembered again how, when she had been disobedient as a child, her father had tied her to a tree. She was afraid of being abandoned again and could only cling tightly to Michelle's hand. She also promised that she would behave. The man rebuked her self-righteously. "This time it was your fault. I came to save you, so how could you be afraid of me?" Then he asked with a smile, "Then will you listen to me?" The girl nodded frantically and said that she would. So Michelle told her to help him do one thing. Rose looked at the blood seeping from the elf's body and trembled all over. Yet she still did not dare refuse. This man was simply too terrifying. The moment he opened his mouth, he wanted to borrow a little blood from the young lady. Rose thought gloomily, "Is my only value just this blood in my body?" Michelle even pretended to be considerate, as if he did not want to force her. But the very moment he turned around, Rose still gave in. Then Michelle took out that 40-meter horn knife. He slashed hard across Rose's palm. Fresh blood splattered onto the reflection of the moon. The girl trembled all over, not knowing what Michelle was trying to do. After a while, a winged reindeer flew over, lowered its head, and licked the bloodstains on the ground. Rose recognized it. It was the mount of the goddess Diana. At this moment, Michelle suddenly leaned close to her. Then he grabbed her hand and shoved it straight into the reindeer's mouth. Michelle knew that even the most ferocious animal, once it had tasted Rose's blood, would become as docile as a pet. This reindeer had already submitted to Rose. Michelle wanted Rose to give the reindeer to him. All right, Rose? Rose knew this was an act of disrespect toward the goddess, but compared with the goddess, Michelle was more important. So the two of them mounted the reindeer and headed for the Temple of the Moon. The elves' power came from the moon goddess. To wake their companions, they had to obtain the goddess's help. The reindeer brought them to a spotless, white temple. The goddess angrily flung open the curtain and sternly rebuked Michelle. "Breaking into my territory, killing my elves, and even stealing my mount. Is this how Ceres taught you?" Michelle replied calmly, "You are not qualified to insult my foster mother." Rose widened her eyes in shock. The goddess Ceres of Camilla Temple was actually Michelle's foster mother. Then Michelle addressed Diana as mother, completely overturning Rose's understanding. The goddess Diana governed the moon and the night and revered purity. So how could she be Michelle's mother? The goddess was burning with rage and had no desire at all to acknowledge the sun. But Michelle said, "Although my foster mother has treated me very well, I cannot forget the kindness of my birth mother either." The goddess accused Michelle that everything he did was an insult to her. Michelle asked his mother if she still wanted to take back the reindeer. The reindeer now recognized only Rose, and it was impossible for it to return to her side. The goddess's anger then spread to Rose. I already told you to run quickly, but in the end you were still caught by this boy. She cupped Rose's face, and at the same time saw through her fate and her heart. The goddess was obsessed with purity, and so she was especially tolerant toward pure girls as well. Michelle was her stain, so he had never been favored. She told Michelle to speak quickly if he had business. Otherwise, he should get out at once. Michelle only asked her to release his companions from the dream. The goddess was unwilling, but because she had once promised Ceres at the River of Oblivion that she would grant Michelle 3 wishes, she had no choice but to agree to help him wake his companions. But she did not want Michelle to leave safely and unharmed. So she decided to curse her own son, making him lose his true love. No matter what form it took, that true love would disappear forever. Michelle gladly accepted his mother's curse. I look forward to it. Perhaps he thought that in this life, he would never encounter true love. Then he left with Rose. The goddess revealed a strange smile. That day would come very soon. That mad goddess was truly mad. She actually cursed her own son to lose his true love. After returning to the Forest of Dreams, their companions indeed all woke up. After returning from the Temple of the Moon, Rose had remained listless the whole time. Was she really all right? The goddess's curse continued to trouble her. On this day, Michelle was going to Camilla Temple, so he entrusted all their companions to Fabbits. Camilla Temple enshrined Ceres, the goddess of the earth, and it was located beside the village where Rose had lived. And the goddess Ceres was Michelle's foster mother, and it was she who had sent down the oracle saying that Rose had brought monsters to the village. All of this was far too coincidental, and Rose wanted to find out the truth for herself. So she asked Michelle to take her with him. Rose gave the reindeer to Michelle, and Michelle also wanted to give her something in return. But to Rose, as long as she could be with Michelle, that alone was enough to satisfy her. She comforted herself, telling herself she had to believe Michelle was not that kind of person. At the temple, the high priestess had already been waiting for a long time. She wanted to lead the reindeer away and tie it up, but that creature understood human speech and simply flew away. They would stay overnight at the temple tonight. Michelle went to see his foster mother, Ceres. Listening to the oracle would take half a day. So Rose was left in the care of the priestess Kosa. Kosa led her into a clean room. She had also prepared a delicious dinner for her. His Highness Michelle said that Miss Rose had a small appetite, so there was no need to prepare food that was too lavish. He had never let Rose go hungry, and no matter when, he always took the girl's feelings into account. Other than that one time in the forest, you already have nothing left. It was precisely to learn more about Michelle that Rose had come here. I must also thank you. After she left, the candles were also extinguished. When it had become completely quiet outside, she was just about to go out and investigate. At that moment, the reindeer appeared outside the window. Using both hands and feet, Rose opened the window, and the deer flapped its wings, bit down on Rose's clothes, and dragged her straight out. Rose screamed in terror. She shut her eyes tightly and loudly called for Michelle. Fortunately, the reindeer caught her with lightning speed. It was just that the pain made her face nearly twist out of shape. This was her first time riding the reindeer alone, and she watched as it flew farther and farther away. Rose tried to negotiate with it. Put me down first, so now you. I'll sneak out later and play with you. The reindeer was actually very obedient and really put her down at the entrance to the temple. Michelle should be at the altar of worship. There are 2 priestesses ahead, and Rose is hiding behind a pillar, eavesdropping on their conversation. They're going to prepare bathwater for Michelle. As long as she follows them, she will be able to find him. She sees Kosa walk up to the statue. It is the earth goddess Ceres and her daughter Pulsina. Her hand reaches toward the goddess's face, but at that moment, she is suddenly stopped by another priestess. The priestess from earlier accidentally slipped on the way to the bathhouse and shattered the only bottle of essential oil. The 2 hurried away, leaving behind nothing but silence. Rose has no choice but to look for Michelle herself. She circles around the statue, but finds nothing. Just now, she seemed to see Kosa trying to reach out and touch the statue of the goddess Pulsina. Could there be a hidden space behind it if the statue were pushed aside? Please forgive her. Rose knows that touching the goddess's statue is an act of disrespect. Please forgive her rudeness, but she truly wants to find Michelle. But even standing on tiptoe, she still cannot reach it. So she thinks that maybe she can try jumping. She leaps up, not even knowing what she touched. The statue's eyes actually sink inward. A thunderous rumble follows. Rose trembles in fright, unsure whether she has caused trouble. The man is already 500 years old, yet he still looks like a boy, enchanting the girl so completely that she does not want to be apart from him even for a moment. In order to find the man she adores, she accidentally triggers the statue's mechanism. Rose trembles all over in fear, and after a burst of rumbling noise, a passage slowly appears between the 2 statues. Though she is afraid, in order to see Michelle, Rose still gathers her courage and feels her way forward in the dark. Inside is even more spacious than she imagined. After walking for a long time, she finally discovers a faint light in the corner. Rose follows the light, and at the end hangs a curtain. When she lifts it, the dazzling light makes her almost unable to open her eyes. Beyond it is a world filled with light. Two little donuts flap their tiny wings, passing through a reed bed as tall as a person. The goddess Ceres and Michelle are standing beneath a large tree. The loving mother is just about to hear her son talk about that girl. She has heard that she is a very likable child, but in Michelle's eyes, all animals are very likable when they are young. The goddess looks at Michelle lovingly. You are clearly still a child yourself, and yet this youthful appearance of yours has already lasted for 500 years. When she hears that Michelle is already 500 years old, Rose, hiding in the reeds, is so shocked that her jaw practically drops. Michelle is the son of the goddess Diana and possesses a demigod body, so it is perfectly normal for him to have remained youthful for 500 years. The goddess can tell that Rose likes Michelle very much, but Michelle seems to see her only as a younger sister. But is that child really so important to you? Important enough for you to ask me to deliver a false oracle? Michelle says that all of this is for her own good. In this world, such a small child would find it very hard to survive. Moreover, the oracle did not directly name Rose. It merely said something as ordinary as, beautiful flowers easily attract many insects. It did not say that the flower definitely referred to a person, much less Rose. Besides, there are countless children named after flowers. Even so, they directed all their anger at Rose. Not a single person truly cared whether she lived or died. If not for me, Rose would have died long ago. The conversation between mother and son is heard by Rose with perfect clarity. The girl feels wrong to the extreme and turns to run out. For a moment, she has no idea how to face this man who deceived her and incited the villagers to kill her. Michelle's words keep echoing in her ears. Rose runs out of the secret passage in one breath and collapses to the ground from exhaustion. When the priestess sees her, her face is full of shock. Rose does not want to explain and gets up and starts running wildly again. The reindeer circles in the sky above the temple. Rose mounts the reindeer and leaves, completely ignoring the priestess's attempts to stop her. Whether it is the temple or Michelle's side, she will never return again, and she will never trust anyone again. In fact, I had already told the goddess that mother and son had long since discovered that Rose had entered the depths of the temple and was hiding in the reeds listening in. Michelle let her hear it on purpose. He knew that although Rose was innocent, she was not foolish, and there was no need to keep deceiving her and plant seeds of suspicion in her. In truth, the thing he concealed was not only the matter of the oracle. He also concealed his feelings for her. He believed that was a secret, not a lie. The goddess also sensed that Rose was leaving on the moon reindeer, but Michelle was not worried. He believed that Rose would definitely come back. The one who can bring me victory, the one who can become my heart, will surely return to my side. After witnessing how the sacrificial shrine maiden had been manipulated by a scumbag man, the girl was so heartbroken that she was nearly on the verge of collapse. Riding the moon reindeer, she wandered aimlessly. When she passed a small village, her eyes suddenly lit up. It was the place where she had grown up, and suddenly, she wanted so badly to go home. So she had the reindeer descend to take a look. She was afraid of being discovered by the villagers, so she left the reindeer outside and ran back to her old home by herself. The house was completely dark inside. The moment she entered, the dust made her cough non-stop. The things in the house were still in their original places. It seemed that no one had entered during this time. Perhaps no one had even noticed that Rose was gone at all. Thinking this, the girl walked out in disappointment. Just moments ago, she had sworn never to trust anyone again, and now she was already struggling with whether she should return to Michelle's side. Suddenly, a burst of noise startles her, and several villagers are walking this way. Rose quickly finds a place to hide. They are saying that ever since Michelle destroyed the evil dragon, everything in the village has become smooth and prosperous. And yet they bring up Michelle at a time like this. What a coincidence. It is as if they really have already forgotten me. If my luck had been just a little worse back then, on the day I was offered to the evil dragon, I really should have died. At that time, she had been mercilessly abandoned on the edge of the cliff. Even now, she cannot forget the hypocritical words the villagers spoke when they dragged her away for the sacrifice. At last, someone remembers her, but in that person's mouth, Rose is merely a lifeless child. Strangely enough, that girl did not look like a child at all, and she was always doing strange things. Once, when I was not feeling well, she actually handed me a knife and said she would give me her blood. Maybe it was because she was mentally unstable that her father hid her away so madly, whether she was taken away by someone or left on her own. In any case, she is no longer here, and it is as relieving as throwing off a burden. Isn't that a good thing? The villagers' words send a chill through Rose. Heartbroken, she summons the reindeer and leaves the village. What she truly wants is only warm and caring words, gentle expressions, and a hug filled with favoritism. She returns to the temple again, but all the lights have already gone out. Could it be That even Michelle has forgotten me? The girl runs through every corner, frantically searching for Michelle's figure. Because if even Michelle no longer wants her, then she truly has nowhere left to go. At that moment, a familiar call comes from behind her. It is Michelle. The girl throws herself into his arms at once, and her tears instantly burst forth. She knows she was wrong, and she never wants to be separated from this man again. Michelle wipes away the tears at the corners of her eyes, but says that he is going to let her leave. I gave you everything I could give, but you still doubted me, so I can only let you go. Traveling with someone who might leave me at any time. I have already spoken to the people in the temple. From now on, the people here will take care of you. After saying that, he turns to leave. The girl rushes forward and stops him. Then she bites her finger, and blood slowly flows down from her fingertip. She thinks that both the man and the reindeer would need this blood with healing power. If she came along, she would surely be of help. But the man says that taking her with him was never because of her ability. So that is what kind of person I am in your heart. For the first time, the man's pride is hurt like this. He tells the girl to go back inside first, because constantly standing in the cold wind will make her catch a cold. Rose thinks desperately, if neither my power nor my pitifulness can make him stay. I like you. I want to go with you. I will be obedient. From now on, I will never doubt you again. If I don't have you, my heart will have nowhere to belong. The girl confesses through tears, her voice trembling. The man is silent for a moment. Perhaps he is reminded of a strangely familiar scene from several hundred years ago. He reaches out and wipes away the girl's tears. He says, I like you too. You are like a younger sister to me. But to the girl, Michelle is her first love. But she also understands that Michelle cannot possibly like a child, and saying it aloud would only add to his burden. In the end, Rose still follows Michelle back to the temple to rest. Tomorrow, they will set out together. Ever since the mad goddess cursed that Michelle's true love would disappear forever, Rose has never been able to let go of this matter. Michelle asks her, could it be that you are worried that I will lose you? When he sees that the little girl has had her thoughts exposed, her face instantly turns red. So he comforts her, saying that the curse has already been lifted and that his adoptive mother, the Earth Goddess, is no less powerful than the Moon Goddess. But how could a curse cast by a god be so easy to lift? Michelle is still the same as usual, telling the girl a bedtime story. If the curse has not been lifted, then other women would also suffer from losing the one they love, so which is more agonizing? Watching him fall in love with someone else and then helplessly watching that person lose her beloved, or being separated from him forever. But would he ever fall in love with me? No matter which it is enough to make one despair. Filled with thoughts, Rose falls into a deep sleep. Early the next morning, they set out to find their companions. On the way, Rose suggests giving the reindeer a name. After all, they will be together from now on, so they cannot keep calling it just reindeer. Michelle has never thought about this question. He even thinks that just calling it deer is fine. Hearing this, the mount sheds 2 lines of bitter tears. Rose thinks to herself that if Michelle were the one to name it, he would probably choose something completely perfunctory. The reindeer is originally the mount of the Moon Goddess, and its whole body is snow white. So why not call it Luce? Michelle is silent for a long time. Why does it have to be this name of all names? The girl can tell that he is unhappy and stammers as she tries to explain, but is directly interrupted. The reindeer is also so aggrieved that it almost turns into a sobbing mess on the spot. None of them know that Luce is the white moonlight in Michelle's heart. Placing this name on an animal is simply too great a desecration. At this moment, Beiji appears to welcome everyone. Michelle walks away directly, with a cold expression. Rose is downcast, like a withered cabbage. She should have known better than to make decisions on her own. Beiji tenderly cups her increasingly thin little face. Fabitz is also worried that the journey has been too long and has exhausted her. There is a village not far ahead. Just hold on a little longer and you can rest and recover properly there. After confirming that Michelle was already out of sight, Sid pushed Fabitz aside and took out a bow and handed it to Rose. The girl looked completely bewildered. Didn't this guy hate me a lot? Why was he giving me a bow and arrows? Beiji cheered and tugged at his hand. This is a gift from the icy cool guy to you. He wanted to teach Rose archery. At some point, Michelle had already come to their side. As always, he opposed Rose learning archery, but Sid believed that since this girl was going to adventure with them, she had to learn to protect herself. The debate between the 2 handsome men officially began. Just as they were arguing fiercely, Fabitz stepped out to play the peacemaker. He also agreed that Rose was still young and didn't need to rush into learning how to use weapons. Sid argued on solid grounds that this kind of overprotection would only harm her. None of us is omnipotent. At the very least, she should have the ability to defend herself when danger comes. Michelle hadn't expected Sid to care so much about Rose, but she also had special abilities. The moment Sid heard that, he exploded. Other than bleeding profusely, what power did she have? Since they couldn't see eye to eye, he didn't want to say another word and turned to leave. Rose felt very upset. Aside from donating blood, She couldn't help with anything, and in her teammates' eyes, she was just a burden. Michelle thought the girl would listen to him. A trace of a victorious smile appeared on his face. Unexpectedly, Rose said that she was willing to learn. It shocked him so much he was utterly stunned. She had already decided that she would learn archery from Sid and not become anyone's burden. Under Sid's guidance, Rose practiced diligently. Before long, she was able to hit the tree trunk. Seeing how quickly she had improved in such a short time, Beiji praised her as an archery genius. Sid could tell that she was hindering Rose from continuing to improve her strength. The moment Beiji heard that, she got angry and immediately wanted to argue with him. You must be taking Michelle's side too. So before he even finished speaking, Beiji guiltily ran off. Seeing this, Rose frowned and questioned Sid. We've been together for so long, and you know they're not bad people. So why do you speak so harshly and twist other people's thoughts? Sid let out a helpless sigh. He felt sorry for the little girl. Even now, she still didn't know why Michelle wouldn't let her learn. Because she was young and needed protection. That was just an excuse. He simply wanted the girl to remain a fool who knew nothing but bleeding for her whole life. Honest words are hard on the ears, and Rose couldn't take in a single word. Angrily, she protested to Sid. Michelle ultimately agreed to let me learn archery, so please stop speaking badly about him. Sid patiently explained that it was because if he kept up a hardline attitude, you would become suspicious of him. I know him better than you do, although Beiji and Fabitz aren't bad people either. Even so, you still can't guarantee that they won't hurt you. Sid grabbed the quiver and still wanted to say a few more words. Unexpectedly, the strap snapped, and Rose collapsed to the ground at once. Rose remembered those villagers who had once hurt her. They were all selfish, but Michelle was different. He genuinely wanted to protect me. Sid urged her to stop deceiving herself. That cat Michelle had raised didn't meet a good end. Kitty was also Michelle's pet name for Rose. Just as he was about to reveal that cat's final fate, Michelle suddenly appeared. I don't remember the two of you being that close. Seeing that they were about to argue again, Rose hurriedly explained. Beiji praised my progress, and Sid was just nagging me a little because he was afraid I'd get arrogant. Michelle patted her on the head, then told everyone to get ready to set out. Tonight, they would stay in the village, halfway up the mountain. Rose shared a horse with Beiji. Michelle rode his reindeer, flying farther and farther away. Beiji complained that nothing had happened lately, and it was really too boring. But fortunately, that was the case. Otherwise, the little one would definitely be scared. Rose stubbornly said that she wasn't afraid. She had seen monsters long ago. Fabitz joined in teasing her too. Many monsters looked even more ferocious than Leviathan. For example, they had seen one whose skin looked as if it had been flayed off, covered in gaping wounds, with scarlet eyes. The little girl tremblingly said that, even so, she still wasn't afraid. The two of them continued to play up the mystery, pretending there was danger all around. Rose broke out in goosebumps. Beiji seized the chance to smack her lightly, then shouted loudly in her ear, frightening the little girl into shutting her eyes and screaming. Afterward, she and Fabitz laughed so hard they doubled over, and only then did Rose realize she had been tricked. Even though the two apologized while laughing, Rose was still very angry. Sid noticed movement in the bushes. The girl thought he was going to join in the prank too. Fuming, she warned them that if they kept this up, she would tell Michelle. The next second, she felt the world spin around. Horse and rider fell together into the mud. I told you long ago to stay alert. When they came to their senses, they discovered a rope stretched across before them. Immediately afterward, random sticks were pressed against their necks. Why were the villagers kidnapping them? Fabitz laughed it off. We're just ordinary travelers passing by. But the villagers didn't believe him at all. What ordinary people would travel carrying so many weapons? Look, every one of them had weapons on them. Fabitz explained with a grin. We often travel far from home. We only carry these for self-defense. The scar-faced captain looked at them and saw they were just a group of children, and there was even an underage girl among them. He yanked the little girl over, frightening Rose into wailing loudly. She cried out, Michelle, I'm so scared. Come help me. At that moment, a familiar song sounded by her ear, just like the first time she met Michelle. Then the reindeer prince descended from the sky on 7 colored clouds. After recognizing the moon reindeer, the villagers' expressions immediately turned solemn. One after another, they knelt down to pay respects to the child of the moon. Later that night, apologies aside for the moment, the adventure party moved into the most luxurious room in the village. The scar-faced man said that all the temples serving Ceres, the goddess of the earth, had issued an official notice. The child of the moon who inherited his mount from the goddess Diana, riding a pure white reindeer, he had set out on a journey to protect the people. Beiji and Fabitz could both tell that he had something to ask of them. Actually, ever since a year ago. But Michelle had no intention of paying him any attention at all, and turned to ask Rose whether she was hungry. Then he told the scar-faced man that this child had been frightened and needed rest, and that they could hear the story later. Please prepare some food first. I would like to bathe after eating. The scar-faced man respectfully went down to make arrangements. Rose carefully reminded him, Isn't this a bit inappropriate? Everyone knows you're the goddess's son, and you're still being so rude. People will gossip about you. Michelle's face darkened, and after a moment of silence, he finally spoke. Just because you treat others well doesn't mean you'll definitely be loved and respected. If you act a little arrogantly at times, they'll know how to be grateful. Besides, I cherish you so much, yet they trample on you as they please. Seeing that Michelle was about to start preaching again, Sid wanted to take Rose to practice archery. Michelle sensed something strange about the village and wouldn't let Rose go out. Sid, who didn't know what was going on, could only leave resentfully. After dinner, Rose thanked Michelle for saving her once again. I was really scared then, and in my panic I called your name, and you really appeared riding loose so coolly. The moment the words left her mouth, she remembered that Michelle seemed not to like the name Luce. She immediately became so embarrassed that her toes could dig out an entire apartment, and you don't seem to like it very much. Unexpectedly, Michelle remained very calm. I think he has already accepted naming the reindeer Luce, but the girl was still very uneasy. Just then, a pillow smacked into her face. Beiji laughed so hard she swayed like a flower in the wind. The freezing atmosphere instantly shot up to 105 degrees. The next second, Michelle pinned her onto the bed. Amid the playfulness, Michelle revealed the mark at his waist. The name Luce was especially striking. Rose tossed and turned. Unable to sleep, Michelle was unusually sensitive to the name Luce. The word Luce was even carved onto his stomach. None of this could possibly be a coincidence. In her daze, she seemed to hear the ticking of a clock. Rose suddenly sat up, only to find that she had already arrived in a strange place. There was also a strange woman before her, smoothing a long red string. The other end of the string was tied to Rose's wrist. She motioned for Rose to come and sit down. I was only entrusted by Diana to save an unfortunate young girl who has fallen in love. Diana and Michelle did not have a good relationship, and she had even placed a curse on him. Who was this mysterious woman, and would she really help Rose? The girl wasn't wearing pants while sleeping. She was taken to another world by the strange woman. The strange woman told her that the moon goddess had once fallen in love with a mortal. I knew they would have a child in the future, yet I chose to conceal it. And purity was Diana's symbol, and bearing a child meant that she was no longer pure. Later, this child, born without any warning, was loathed by Diana for hundreds of years. And he never hid the fact that he was the child of the moon, insisting on making it known to everyone. And now Diana loathed this child for far more than just that. The strange woman rolled up her sleeves, revealing horrifying arms. I know everyone's fate, and I help them board the torrent of time. The fates of the unfortunate are all carved onto my body, but I hope there will be fewer children born bearing misfortune. I believe that love, even if tiny, even childish love, can bring about huge changes in fate. As she spoke, she handed Rose a greenish-red string. She said this was also one of her ways of saving the one she loved. After waking up, Rose was exceptionally clear-headed. She spread open her palm, and that red string had already disappeared. Later, she went to learn archery from Sid again. This time, they piled stones into a tower to use as the target. Because funds were limited after the arrows were shot, they had to be picked back up and used repeatedly. At the same time, the fallen stones had to be stacked up again. A black stone carved with patterns nearby caught Rose's attention. At that moment, Sid came over and told her to hurry home, because after secretly observing, he discovered that in such a large village, there were actually no children around Rose's age. Maybe what the village chief wanted to ask for help with was related to children. Thinking of this, Sid was afraid Rose would be abducted, so he wrapped an arm around her and quickly walked back. That night, the scar-faced man came again to ask Michelle to help the villagers. Half a year ago, after his child went out to play, the child never came back, and the other children also began to disappear one after another. At first, they suspected kidnapping, so every night they organized villagers to patrol, but the situation did not improve. Recently, they had heard that monsters had been appearing frequently. Could it be the monsters doing? Michelle denied his guess, because most monsters were very stupid. It would be impossible for them to disguise themselves among humans for as long as half a year, so only two possibilities remained. Either the gods were once again disrupting the order of the human world, or someone in the village did it. Although there was no way to bring those children back, I roughly knew the reason they had disappeared. Please go out first, and tomorrow morning gather all the villagers. The scar-faced man wanted to say something, but stopped himself. After hesitatingly leaving the room, Rose asked Michelle whether he really knew the reason the children had disappeared. Unexpectedly, the answer was that he didn't know. So, I want to use you as bait. Can you help me with this? Thinking that this was a chance to help Michelle, the girl agreed without the slightest hesitation, and Sid immediately flew into a rage. Fabitz and Beiji quickly covered his mouth and carried him out. Michelle reminded the girl that she might be injured or even lose her life. Rose didn't mind at all, because her life had originally been saved by Michelle. Michelle gently stroked her cheek in relief. You are so important to me. Of course, I won't let you be hurt over such a small matter. I would never do something foolish without certainty. The girl suddenly felt that Michel was so lofty, he seemed beyond reach. Was he always so confident because he had lived longer than ordinary adults? He had already lived for more than 500 years. In more than 500 years, he must have seen all kinds of people and things. Rose suddenly became curious about Michel's past. In the long years he had lived through, could there also have been someone named Luce?